when the Siddhanti has said that before the creation there was nothing, then the Shunyavadi, here the Purvapakshi is Shunyavadi. The Shunyavadi says, Kim Shunyameva Syat? Can we make a conclusion that before the creation there was absolutely nothing, emptiness? Is it okay for us to make a conclusion if there was nothing before the creation? Then is it alright if we make a conclusion that there was only shunya, means emptiness? Kim shunyameva syat? Naiva iha kinchana iti shrutehe. Because your own Vedanta says there was nothing before creation. Nothing can only be interpreted to mean shunyam. Nothing can be interpreted to mean only shunyam. Maybe there was shunya, means nothing. No, shunya means no subject, no object, no creation, no source, no truth, no false, no form, no formless, nothing. I mean, you can't really think of anything to exist there. Maybe it was emptiness. Can't we make a conclusion that before the creation it was all just emptiness? Na karyam na karanam va asit. There was neither the creation nor the source. Nothing must include both the creation and the source. If had it been true that there was only no creation but there was the source, then the Shruti would have said there was no creation but there was source. It would have specified. The Shruti would have specified that there was no creation but the source was there. But the Shruti doesn't specify that the source was there. The Shruti says there was nothing. Nothing means no creation and also no source. Na karyam karanam va asit. Utpattescha. And also because when you say the very description that you give of the universe, that it is a creation, it's a very beautiful Purvapakshi it is. It's just a logical, it's a trying to corner the Siddhanti on the basis of logic. It's a logical jugglery. Yes, it's a logical jugglery. It's a jugglery through logic. It can really confuse a person. So he says, Utpattescha. How do you describe this universe? Creation. You call it creation? Yes. Shunyavadi tells the Siddhanti, my dear Siddhanti, don't you describe this universe as a creation? Yes, we describe it. Does not Vedanta describe it to be so? Yes. If you call it a creation, understand, before the creation, there should be no creation. Before the creation, there should be no creation. When there was no creation, then there is no idea of the source also. The idea of the source, it goes with the idea of creation. And when the creation is not there, the idea of the source also is not there. So we can say, your very description of the universe as the creation establishes one fact, that before the creation, there was neither the creation nor the source. Are you able to follow this? This is really jugglery. You see, na karyam na karanam vasit, utpattescha. That utpattescha means due to the fact that you describe the universe as a creation. And he gives the example. How? Utpadyate hi ghataha. We describe a pot as a creation. A pot is created by a pot maker. A pot is born, is made by a pot maker. Utpadyate hi ghataha. And by the very logic that the pot is described as a creation, by the very fact that the pot is a creation, ataha, therefore, pragutpattehe ghatasya, before the creation of the pot, nastitvam, pot has no existence. Because pot is made, it was non-existent before it was made. If it were existent even before it was made, then there was no need to make it. Simple logic. If pot were there even before it is made, then you don't have to call on a pot maker to make a pot. If it is made, it means before it was made, it was not there. In the same manner, if this universe, if you were to describe this universe as a creation, and you do describe the universe as a creation, that means before the universe was created, there was no creation. And if there were no idea of creation, then there is no idea of source, creator. Simply. There is no idea of the creator. There is no idea of the source. Therefore, naiva iha kinchana mishat. There was nothing. Nothing existed before the creation. Can only be interpreted to mean only shunyam. Iti, a small Purva Pakshi called Shunyavadi. Shunyavadi. Now Siddhanti butts him. He stops him. My dear Shunyavadi, you gave the example of pot. You said, before the pot was made, pot was not there. ठीक है. What was made was not there before it was made. That is logical. What is made is not there before it was made. But before the pot was made, its source was there. Material was there. The material for the pot is not made alongside the pot. The material for the pot is not made alongside the pot. The material for the pot is not made. Pot is made out of the material, but the material is not made. That is also logically, that is also available for observation. That is why the Siddhanti says here, sir, Nanu karanasya na nastitvam. But sir, it is okay to say the creation was not there before it was created. The universe was not there before it was created. It is okay to say that. But the source can't be non-existent. Karanasya na nastitvam. Source can't be non-existent. Pot was non-existent before it was made. But the clay was not non-existent. Pot was not there before it was made, but clay was. Clay was. Pot was not, but clay was. Similarly, we can say, why can't we take this example? Why can't we extend this example to the universe? Before the creation, the universe was not, but the source was. Before the creation, the universe was not. Before the creation, the mind was not. Before the creation, this body was not. Before the creation, the time, space, form, thought were not. In brief, the universe was not, but the source was. Does this example called pot, does this pot example convey the absence of both? The pot example conveys only the absence of the creation, not the absence of the source. So your example doesn't help you, sir. Your example is only helping me. Siddhanti says to the Purva-Paksha. You take a stick to beat somebody and he makes use of that stick to beat you. ये भी होता है ना? ऐसा भी होता है. ऐसा भी होता है. You beat him, so you beat that person with his own stick. Similarly, Siddhanti is beating the Shunyavadi with his own stick. But there is one small flaw. It's very, very beautiful. The Shunyavadis do not even go by tarka properly. They go by more presumption than even anumana. Arthapatti. Proper anumana is different from arthapatti. Anumana has greater certainty, whereas arthapatti has a lot of subjectivity. Arthapatti has a lot of subjectivity. It's not certain. It's like you're saying, a person doesn't eat by day, but still he puts on weight. You make a presumption, he must be eating by night. It could be some other reason also. It's not 100% certain. It's a presumption. The moment it is a presumption, arthapatti, a lot of subjectivity has come. Buddhists generally go by the arthapatti rather than the anumana. Anumana is a very valid pramana. That's why Vedanta only goes by just the pratyaksha and anumana and shabda, only three pramanas. Pratyaksha is very, very valid. For objects, pratyaksha is valid. For anumana also is valid because it is based on pratyaksha and no subjectivity. It's objective. When I see the fire as hot, there is no subjectivity in it. It is pramana janya jnana. When I make a conclusion that so wherever there is dhuma, there is fire, there is nothing subjective, it is a proper pramana janya jnana. And when it comes to presumption, it's a little different. Shabda is also pramana. But anyway, he is giving this logic. Nanu karanasya na nastitvam mrit pindadi darshanat. Siddhanti says, Sir, before the pot was created, pot was not there, but the clay was there. We see that the clay was there. Mrit pindadi darshanat. Before the creation of the pot is not seen, but clay is seen. Pot is not experienced, but clay is experienced. Similarly, before the creation is not experienced, but the experiencer, that is the subject, that is experienced. That is experienced. In Sushupti, Jagrat is not experienced, but the blackout is experienced. We'll see all that. Now we are confining ourselves to example. Before the creation of the pot is not seen, but the clay is seen. Therefore, you can't give the Ghatad Drishtantam to establish. You can't give Ghatad Drishtantam to establish the absence of both the creation and the source before the creation. Then next, Yat na upalabhyate, what is not seen before the creation. Yanna upalabhyate, what is not seen. Tasyaiva nastita, that alone can be accepted to be non-existent. Before the creation, what is not seen is non-existent, you can say. But you can't make a conclusion that the truth was non-existent, because truth can neither be seen to be an object. It is not an object of the senses for you to conclude. Because it is not objectified, it is not the existence of the truth cannot be judged on the basis of objectification. I can make a conclusion objects are not there because they are not in Sushupti. These objects were not there because they are not seen. There is nothing illogical about it. The time was not there because it was not seen. Listen to this very well. The elements were not there because they were not seen. Therefore, non-perception, non-memory can be used as pointer to their non-existence. There was no world in Sushupti because it was not seen. There was no time, space, form, thought because they were not seen. They were not objectified. To be seen means to be objectified. These details of the creation can be objectified. And when they are objectified by me, I make a conclusion they are there. When they are not objectified, I can make a conclusion they are not there. Therefore, their very existence is felt through their objectification. You have to follow this terse language. The very existence of the world, the very existence of the five elements is judged through their objectification. But the truth cannot be objectified. And therefore, through objectification, you cannot judge the presence or absence of the truth. And therefore, before the creation, only the world was not seen, and therefore, kinchana, there was nothing when we say no detail of the world should be taken. Only before the creation, none of the details of the creation was there. It is a statement referring to the absence of the world. It is not a statement referring to the absence of the source. It doesn't talk about the absence of the source. Why not we think like that? Siddhanta said, Astu karyasya natu karanasya. Let us accept that the karyam, the world, the creation was not there before it was created. The universe was not there, the karyam was not there before the creation. But natu karanasya, but we can't conclude the non-existence of the source. The non-existence of the source cannot be concluded through non-objectification, because by nature it is unobjectified. If it is a form, if it is objectified, I say it is there. If it is not objectified, then it is not there. But in this manner we can't conclude about the unit, about the source. Karyasya natu karanasya upalabhyamanatvat. Upalabhyamanatvat. And the example that you have given is pot example. In the pot example, before the pot was created, the pot is not seen, but the clay is seen. In fact, there are profounder ways of arguments. Even though you don't really see the pot, but you can infer that it was there potentially present, that is why it was made. The possibility of the pot was there even before the pot. So the pot, when it is made, the pot is seen all right, whereas before the creation of the pot, the possibility of pot is inferred. Are you able to follow? The possibility of the pot is inferred. But we can bypass that inference. Let us forget about that inference. We can confine ourselves to this kind of logic, that is, before the creation of the pot, pot is not seen, but the clay is seen. Pot is not seen. Before I make the table is not seen, but the wood is seen. And we can extend the same logic to the creation. Before the universe was created, universe was not seen. Before I wake up, the universe is not seen. It means before I wake up means what? Before the creation is not seen. But I can't say the source is not seen, because it is the source that illumines the very absence of the creation. There is nothing wrong in taking that stand to begin with. We can always look at the source as the illuminer of the presence of the universe as well as the illuminer of the absence. Testifier too. The witness testifies to the presence of the state. It also testifies to the absence of the state. That may not be its fundamental identity, but you can take the help of that logic to understand. Like the sun not only illumines the presence of an object, and it is within that light I can know the absence of an object. Within the light I can't even know the absence. In order to know whether an object is there or not, I have to throw light. That means just as the light illumines both the presence of an object as well as an absence of an object, similarly the source illumines the presence of creation as well as the absence of creation, as the testifier to the absence of the waking state, as a testifier to the absence of the thought. The source is experienced. Source is experienced in Sushupti. Even before one is born, the source is experienced. Sounds very, 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 very far-fetched, but it is not far-fetched. Yes, it's a very, very big thing. Before you are born, before you begin to experience the universe, before even you opened your eyes, you did experience the source which testifies to the freedom from the creation. It is your presence minus the universe. Before life, it is one's presence minus the universe. In the waking, it is one's presence plus the universe. In dream, it is one's presence plus the dream. You can't substitute your presence with something. You can't substitute your presence with your absence. You can't substitute your presence with your absence. You can't substitute your presence with the presence of something else. It is that is the truth, sir. What cannot be replaced is the truth. Irreplaceable. The only thing which is irreplaceable is the truth. So Bhashyakara here says, sir, before the creation, you can say the universe was not there. But you can't prove, by this example you can't prove that the source was not there. Going by the logic. Logic only points to the presence of the source. In fact, here I would like to say something. Any even Kevala Tarka, the sense perception based Tarka even the material logic, the sense perception based, sense data based logic even, if it is properly followed, it points to what? It only points to what Vedanta says to be true. Yes. It may not be it may not be really correctly going, correctly following the indriya, the perception-based tarka, correctly following, it only confirms what Vedanta says. It cannot mislead if you go correctly, if you do it correctly. I'll tell you how the Kevala Tarka, the perception, the sense data based Tarka misled Sankhya. The Sankhya was misled by the sense perception based Tarka. Nayayika and Vaiseshika, they were misled by the sense perception, sense data based Tarka, independent of Shastra. Not because it is the Tarka that misleads, that is because the individuals misread that Tarka. They misread that Tarka. Otherwise, the Tarka properly read points to one beautiful thing, and that Tarka establishes one thing beautifully, that is, truth cannot be established through logic. Logic establishes, logic properly followed establishes that truth is not an object of sense perception. Truth also is not an object of the sense perception based tarka. Logic points to the fact that Shabda is the Pramana. It's a very big thing. If you have followed it, if you have not followed it, try to follow it. Even the sense data based tarka, if you don't misread it, if you don't distort it, if you do it correctly, if you think very, very logically, even based on sense data, the logic points to the fact that truth is not an object of sense perception. Truth is not an object of even tarka. Tarka points to the fact that Shabda is the Pramana. Yes. At least the tarka can establish one thing, that perception is not the Pramana in the matter of the truth. Tarka is not the Pramana. What else is the Pramana? That is for the Shabda to say. Tarka may not be able to establish Shabda is the Pramana, but Tarka definitely establishes that Tarka is not the Pramana. Good enough, Ji? Are you able to follow what I am saying? Tarka definitely establishes that Tarka is not the Pramana. That's why here he says, Natu Karanasya Upalabhyamanatvat, the last word, Upalabhyamanatvat, because it is perceived. Shunyavadi now he butts in. He responds to what Siddhanti says now. Na, Sir Siddhanti, what you are saying is not true. You are taking the stand that before the creation only the universe was not, but the source was. This is the stand that you are taking. Hey Siddhanti, you are taking the stand that before the creation only the universe was not, but the source was. Siddhanta says that's not true. Why? Pragutpattehe, before the creation. Prag means before. Utpattehe, creation, before the creation. Sarvanupalambhat, very beautiful. Nothing is seen. Not only before the creation, not only the universe was not seen, even the source was. In the case of the pot, it is all right. Before the pot is made, we see the clay all right. We are able to take a stand that before the pot was made, pot was not there, but clay is, because clay is seen. But before the creation, not only the universe was not seen, even the source was not seen. Before I wake up, I not only don't see the universe, I don't see the universe, I also don't see myself. Before I wake up, I don't see the universe, I also don't see myself. Neither I see myself as an individual, nor I see myself as a Parameshwara, as the source, which pata hi nahi, which nahi malum. Therefore, sir, if perception is the prover of existence, if upalabdhi is the pointer to existence, then before the creation, not only the universe was not perceived, even the source was not perceived. Sarvanupalambhat. In the case of the pot, it is all right, sir. Before the pot was made, pot was non-existent, but the clay was there, because clay is seen. But in the case of the universe, before it was created, the universe was not seen, even the source was not seen. Just in that. Tarka ji. Tarka. You drown the person. You brainstorm the person with tarka. Yes. Pragutpaddehe sarvanupalambhat. Purvapakshi continues, Siddhanti, that is Sunyavadi continues. Anupalabdhischet abhava hetu. Very, very beautiful. If non-perception were the proof of non-existence, being not perceived means non-existence, then before the creation, the universe was not there because it was not perceived, and even the source was not there because it was not perceived. Bas. Before I wake up, the universe is not perceived by me. Even my own existence is not perceived by me. Therefore, I can make a conclusion. Before I woke up, neither there was a creation nor myself. Neither the object nor the subject. In other words, neither the creation nor the source. And that is called shunyam. So before I wake up, there was only shunyam. Sarvasya jagataha. Here it is said, for the whole jagat, sarvasya jagataha. Pragutpaddehe, before the creation. Na karanam karyam va upalabhyate. Before the universe was created, neither the universe is perceived nor its source is perceived. It is okay when it comes to the pot. Before the pot is made, pot is not seen, but the clay is seen. Before the table is made, table is not seen, but wood is seen. But before the creation of the universe, neither I see the universe nor the source. Therefore, how can you make a conclusion that before the creation the universe was not, but the source was? ये कैसे होगा? इति शून्यवादी. सर्वस्य जगतः प्रागुत्पत्तेः न कारणं कार्यं वा उपलभ्यते तस्मात् therefore सर्वं सर्वस्यैव अभावः अस्तु. Therefore, sarvasyayeva abhavostu. Let us accept before the creation there was non-existence of everything. Everything means both the karyam and karanam. That is called everything. It's a very beautiful point. Everything means both karyam and karanam. Everything means both object and subject. Otherwise, everything is generally taken as everything. Everything in the mind of a Shunyavadi, in the mind of a philosopher, in the mind of a darshanam, everything means both object and subject. Both are not there. The creation and the source, that's called everything. The whole. The illumined and the illumina, that's called the whole. The object and the subject, that is the whole. The sakshi and the sakshyam, the whole. So why not we say, the Shunyavadi says, Tasmat sarvasyaiva. Har cheez ka means the whole thing. Abhavahastu. Let us accept the non-existence of the whole thing. All the creation, the source. For which Siddhanti says na. You are able to follow it? It's nice thinking, this is what can save you. These are all terse, they're all right thinking. A little bit of insight into what is being said can mean a lot in life. A little insight. Because you can never establish the absence of the source. Because the only way by which you can establish the absence of anything is its non-perception, meaning dikhta nahi hai. But the Atma is something which cannot be dikhta, it is not be an object. Now the Siddhanta says, na, not. Mrityuna eva. The Shruti not only says, before the creation nothing was there, but it also says, Mrityuna eva, by Mrityu. Idam, this universe, avritam asit, enveloped. Meaning, this universe had been swallowed by the Mrityu, the source. We can interpret it. The universe was not seen before the creation because it was unmanifest. We can also say the universe was not perceived before creation. It was not perceived because it had resolved unto the source. It remained unmanifest, therefore it was not seen. That is one Mrityu. It had resolved unto the source, therefore it was not seen. Like when a wave dissolves unto water. When the wave dissolves in water, then I don't see the wave because it has become one with water. I don't see the river once it meets the ocean because it has become one with the river. I don't see the river now. This becoming one with that is a laya unto the source. It loses its perceptibility. That is called a laya. The perceptible loses its perceptibility. The sound, the audible loses its audibility. That is its laya. The form loses its visibility. That is its laya. The universe loses its objectifiability, that is its laya. Therefore, the Bhashyakara says here, sir, we can't conclude that before the creation there was no source. We can only conclude that the universe was not there. Even that is doubtful. But the source was very much there because it says there was something that concealed something. That means there was something. If there was something which concealed, that means there was something. And there was something which was concealed, that means there was something. So there was a concealer-concealed relation. Concealer-concealed relationship was there between the source and the creation. Yes. Mrityuna eva idam avritamasit iti Shruti. Because the Shruti confirms something was there concealed and something was there concealing. Therefore, if there is something concealing and something concealed, then it is not shunyam. Because avritam asit. Asit was there. In grammar, na, this you have to follow. It's very, 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 very useful for you if we can pick up this small little point. negative called nakara should always be connected to the verb. Nakara should not be connected to the nouns. Nakara should not be connected to adjectives. Nakara should be connected to the verb. I see means what? I see, the presence of sight. I don't see, that means I don't see. There is negation of sight, negation of seeing. Here, the first statement said, before the creation, the universe was not. In the second statement, it says, there was something concealed, and there was something which concealed. So there was something concealing, there was something concealed. That means it's not shunya. Asit means tha. Asit means tha. Mrityuna eva. By the mrityu. Idam avritam asit. This universe existed concealed by mrityu. This universe existed. The first statement says the universe did not exist. The second statement says the universe existed, concealed by the mrityu. That has to be interpreted correctly. The universe existed before the creation. Concealed by mrityu means concealed by the very source. How the source can conceal? When the Srishti has a laya, its non-separateness, the creation's non-separateness from the source is what conceals it. When the wave dissolves unto water, then the wave is not seen. When the pot goes back into clay, then the pot is not seen. When an ornament is melted and it goes back into gold, it is not seen. Thus, ananyatvam is the mrityu. Or the unmanifest is the mrityu. The unmanifestness of the unmanifestness of the creation, the unmanifest state of the universe can be called the mrityu. Mrityuna evedamavritam asiti iti shrutehe. Then he says, yadihi, in case. Kinchidapi na asit, a conditional clause. If it were true that there was nothing, including the source, if it were true that there was nothing before the creation, including the source, then yena avriyate, by what it is concealed, yacha avriyate, and that there is something concealed. There is something that conceals, there is something that is concealed. This reference to the envelope and the enveloped, the concealer and the concealed. Avriyate tada, then na avakshyat, the Shruti would not have made a mention. The Shruti would not have made a mention if it were true that before the creation there was neither the creation nor the source. If it were true that before the creation there was nothing, then the Shruti would not have made a mention. There was something, that this universe existed concealed by mrityu. That means there was mrityu and the universe both. There was mrityu, the concealer, and there was the universe as concealed. So it is a reference to the presence of both. Na avakshat, it would not have said, conditional clause. Had it been true, if it were really true, that before the creation there was neither creation nor the source, then the Shruti would not have made a mention that there was the universe concealed and there was Mrityu concealing. So there is a reference to the presence of something, there is no reference to the absence of everything. There is a reference to the presence. Mrityuna eva idamamrutam iti. This sentence is very beautiful, the Bhashikaras had it. If it were true that there was nothing before the creation, then the scripture would not have said that the universe was there concealed and there was a Mrityu concealing. What does Mrityu mean? What does the universe mean? What is concealing? This has to be judged in the light of the entirety of the Shastra. A given Vakya must be interpreted, must be judged, must be understood in the light of the entire Pramanam. You isolate a sentence from the rest of the scripture, then you can't do anything about it. You see, a hand is a hand in the context of the whole body. You isolate it from the body, it is no longer a hand. They put it on the dustbin. Just put it there. A limb is a limb in the context of the whole. A part is a part in the context of the whole. A Vakya is a Vakya in the context of the whole. This whole is called Purva, Apara. Purva means what has gone. Apara means what is come to. That means the context of the whole. The before and later. Mrityunaye vedamavrutamiti nahi bhavati. The next sentence I'm trying to move. I know you can understand really how difficult it is to teach Bhashyam, my God. माताजी लोगों को भाष्य पढ़ाना इतना आसान नहीं जी. And without the language etc. but to explain all these things. To give a general talk is simple. I can always give a general talk. You must know this. To give a general talk, without really being spiritual, your materialism cannot help. This general talk of values. But to go into prakriya is not easy. Not easy. Therefore, one has to be totally dedicated, totally with the topic. You have to move with the topic. And fatigue you should reject. Physical fatigue you should reject. Mental fatigue also should reject. And that is the tapasya of life. And it is worth doing any tapasya for understanding the truth. Please understand. No tapasya is too high. No tapasya is too big for understanding the truth. Understand? Therefore, it's an insight. Our scripture says, one sentence says there was nothing, but another sentence says there was Mrityu concealing the universe. That means the Shruti does refer to the presence of the universe as well as the concealer. And if there is a concealer-concealed relation between something and the universe, that concealer can only be the source, nothing else. Nothing else. Because I have already told, there cannot be any darkness. Darkness is a part of creation. It is inside this state, there is an idea of darkness. When you leave the waking state, you leave also the darkness. Yes. Very, 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 very great unfoldment if you can really follow this. When I leave When I leave the waking state, when I fall asleep, I have transcended both the physical light as well as physical darkness. That is why the Shuddhi says, in sleep you transcend both day and night. You transcend both day and night. Not only that, you transcend both life and death. And therefore, what conceals the universe before its creation was not darkness. What conceals the universe before its creation was only its source. Its source. The non-separation of the creation with the source is called its imperceptibility. And now please see, I am concluding it now. This particular sentence must now this thing. You know, when we wake up, we see the objects. When I see it, it is light. When I don't see it, I call it darkness. In sleep, I don't see it, therefore I call sleep as darkness. I create a definition of darkness in the waking. I extend it to deep sleep, please understand. I make a definition of darkness. There is a definition of darkness. What is it? It may be a universal definition. That's a different matter. But definitely, it's a definition cooked up inside the waking state. It may not have been deliberately cooked up by me. I find myself with that definition. Bas. I find myself with that definition of darkness. When I see the object, it is light. When I don't see the object, it is darkness. That is why Bhagavan Krishna said, Yashoda said, Krishna said, give me food. Even at 5 o'clock he was feeling hungry. And Yashoda said, child, it is not yet dark. How can I give you dinner? Then he said, all right, now it is dark. Give me dinner. You understand, he closed his eyes and says, now give me dinner, it is dark. That means even Bhagavan Krishna went by that definition, understand? Even he went by that same definition. When the object is seen, it is light. When the object is not seen, it is darkness. In the deep sleep state, the object is not seen. Therefore, how do we describe deep sleep state? Darkness. Understand how we interpret deep sleep as darkness. Otherwise, if you correctly look at deep sleep state, it is a state free from. It is not absence of the world, it is presence of oneself. It is not a state of physical light. It is also not a state of physical darkness. Having understood that deep sleep state is not a state of physical darkness, then you have to ascertain what it is. It is not a state of physical light. It is not a state of physical darkness. It is not a state of presence of an object, nor is it a state of absence of an object. And once you ascertain that it is neither a state of presence of an object nor the state of an absence of an object, then you have to ascertain it is a state of presence of oneself. You have to gravitate to yourself. That we will see later on. That's analogy. To give general talks is so simple. हम तो जा सकते हैं from Delhi to Bombay. 1 week here talks, 1 week in Bombay talks, then 1 week Ludhiana talks, 1 week Punjab. Nice travel and talk. But take up the Bhashyam and teach, and that too line by line, to get the sense out of it. You have to mentally work hard. The students must have great patience. I tell you really, I must really admire your patience and your regularity, your consistency. It is not easy for a student to be so regular for Vedanta. Really, your patience and your regularity, I don't know what is it, that keeps you going, but it is very, very admirable. Very, very appreciable. It's great, it's glorious. Yes, it's not easy. I have seen people studying Vedanta for a few days and afterwards, छोड़ो, बहुत हो गया छोड़ो. ओम पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते. ओम शांति शांति शांति. हरि ओम हरि ओम. रामचंद्र